What's up, guys? Welcome back to News Waves. Hopefully you had a good weekend. Overall, we had some fun here. We did, of course, the Spawncast. We took a look at the Gamecom, which is a very weird handheld from back in the Game Boy and the Game Gear days. And just overall, it was pretty good. It was a pretty good weekend, I would say. So hopefully you get a chance to play some games and hang out. Today, we're going to talk about a couple things, including E3 possibly being in some trouble. Now, there's actually a report that came out about the ESA that, of course, runs E3, and it doesn't look great internally there based on this report from a ton of employees that Variety was able to reach out to. And it looks like another Pokemon game, not necessarily one you might be thinking of on something like the Switch, for example, but this could actually be kind of what Nintendo has in mind post 3DS life. And it's going to be on a cell phone. And it actually might be pretty good based on the previous games this company has done. As always, guys, enjoy these videos. Make sure you do hit the like button. It does help out. We're going to start today with Final Fantasy VII Remake. Now, this, of course, was shown again at the end of State of Play, and it looks like we're going to see it at E3 this year with Square's own presentation, and they did kind of tell us that it is going to be episodic. So that's been pretty much confirmed once again. How is it going to be episodic? Well, maybe that's what we'll find out at E3, and a release date for the first episode/game. So a lot to look forward to there, but we did get a full comparison, which is pretty cool. As you're actually seeing some here, it's a comparison between what we saw in 2015 and, of course, what we just saw the other day. And this was actually done by a YouTuber of Saisu1, and they go through and showcase it pretty heavily. And I have to say, based on the side-by-sides, it looks like they tried to brighten up and make it look a bit less gritty. Maybe make it look more like fantastical, I would say, less realistic even. See, because in 2015, I feel like maybe they were still playing around with the idea of what they were going to turn it into. Was it going to look more like Advent Children, or was it going to maybe brighten up and look a bit more unrealistic, I guess? And it looks like they went that route. They brightened it up, doesn't look as dark and gritty, and honestly, I'm happier with it because I think Cloud looks more like Cloud. Either way, a very interesting comparison. I would check it out down in the sources. We also had a very large update for Mortal Kombat on the Switch. So 1.04 has now been pushed out, and it does address a ton of issues. I mean, a lot. Basically, everything that's been addressed on the Xbox One and the PlayStation 4 version have been addressed here. So a lot of balancing with towers, and then of course the rewards that they gave out, I should say, like more like apology coins is more like it for early adopters. So all of that went out. It's a massive list that I would read through because there's quite a bit there. They also actually did some performance improvements, so the frame rate's a bit better. And they added, like, during fights, you'll get blood and you'll get battle damage. All that's been added. And then they also fixed up some of the looks of the fatalities, which were a little weird. Not the hair part. The hair part's still weird and kind of creepy at times, but like the different parts of fatalities where you'll see blood at certain points on the PlayStation 4 version, the Xbox One version, have also been added to the Switch version. So good to see they are sticking with it and making a lot of these fixes, because it does make me think that they are actually doing pretty well and selling quite a few of them on the Switch. That's good to see. It is also a games as a service because of what they're doing, so most likely they want to make sure it's good to go for the long haul. Either way, if you picked it up on the Switch, you have an update to go get if you have not already to kind of fix up that version. Also, if you were one of the few people that picked up Saints Row the Third on the Switch this last week, it of course came out for $40. If you didn't play it on the 360 or even backwards compatible on the Xbox One or maybe played it on the PS3, this was actually a pretty cool game to get because, well, the Switch doesn't have a Grand Theft Auto, so it makes sense why THQ Nordic would push it over to the Switch alongside, Deep Silver and everything. Well, there were some issues out of the gate. Frame rate was a problem. The way it looked was a bit of an issue when it comes to just the way the world looks at times. And the biggest thing, though, was definitely performance with frame rate. There's no gyro aiming, which they apparently still are not adding. It seems like it's very much a straight port from the 360 version, just kind of up-resed, so like 720 and 1080 rather than like some weird like 540, 580p, whatever the Xbox 360 used before its scaler chip kicked in. It looks like the patch that was originally supposed to come out last week on release day has actually been pushed. They put out a full Twitter statement saying that it will actually be coming out this week coming up. And below that, they cited several fixes, including performance fixes, which is what everyone's really calling for. Fix the frame rate, and for the most part, people, I think, will be happy. Gyro aiming would also be nice, but it sounds like they're not that interested in adding that. So it's going to pretty much stay the same game. It just should hopefully run better. It seems like a straight port, so hopefully they fix that up. And guys, with some of the quick news out of the way, let's get into the bigger stuff, and we're going to start right away with Pokemon on the cell phone, because it looks like a new one is coming. It is a new Pokemon game that is being developed by DeNA. Now, you've probably played their games if you've played most of Nintendo's games that are on cell phones, whether it's Super Mario Run or Fire Emblem Heroes or Animal Crossing. Those are all games that have been done by DeNA, and they're doing pretty well, right? A lot of people are downloading them, they're playing them. Mario Run came out at a premium price. Technically, it's $10, right? But on cell phones, that's a lot of money, it seems, but it actually still did pretty well, and Fire Emblem Heroes is making a boatload of cash, especially in Japan. It looks like they're going to be making their own Pokemon game, kind of to go alongside Pokemon Quest, and I think this is smart by Nintendo, of course, to continue doubling down on Pokemon as a handheld game for cell phones, because it's pretty much for their straight up dedicated game consoles. That's what they are now. It's a console game at this point, whether you want to consider the Switch a handheld, a console, a hybrid. That's where it is now. It's not really being developed, obviously, for the 3DS anymore. They're just selling the older Pokemon games, but they want to keep looking forward and have another Pokemon game that they can monetize. I don't think this is going to be a premium price one. I think it'll be a free-to-play one, and Takashi Machizuki actually had the entire setup there. They tell all the details, coming out by March of next year, which means it's been in development for a little while if it's ready to launch on phones in less than a year at this point, and we're waiting for more details to show up. So it'll probably be, I would say, most likely by the end of the year, we'll hear something about this. We might actually even hear about it around the time of a fiscal report, because trust me when I say this, investors get extremely excited over cell phone games. They love cell phone games. It makes a lot of money. So yeah, investors like cell phone games, go figure. Either way, I think this is a good move. It's also gonna depend on what it's gonna look like. Is it gonna be an actual Pokemon game? Is it gonna be kind of like a Pokemon Go? Is it gonna be like a Pokemon Quest? Or are they just gonna do something completely different? Is it gonna be some weird side-scrolling Pokemon game? Is it gonna be like a gacha game? Like Fire Emblem Heroes, for example. It's gonna be like that, where you summon Pokemon, right? And you build them up and you evolve them and then you battle them, and that's very possible. That's what it could be. And if that is what happens, that's going to make a lot of money. So again, look around an investor's briefing for them to really announce that online. Next up, let's talk about E3, and E3's having some issues. So we already know, of course, Sony isn't going to E3 this year, and that's not necessarily the big reason why it's in trouble. It actually has a lot to do with the parent company that actually runs E3, as it's actually the ESA, and the ESA has had a ton of problems recently. They don't really have the head of the ESA, they don't really have that anymore because they left, and they're looking to appoint one at this point. It's a whole complicated mess, but Variety actually put out a massive piece on it, and they did a ton of research, reaching out to many ex-employees, some who have just been fired, let go, have left themselves. Apparently morale is very, very bad at the ESA, and it sounds like it has a lot to do with the upper management and internal politics surrounding the ESA. Now, E3, of course, is a show that we all look forward to every year because it's fun, right? It keeps video games heavily in the mainstream, right? Video games fall in and out of mainstream depending on what games are being announced. If Pokemon Go shows up, right? Everyone's talking about games. Yes, it's a cell phone game, but people are still talking about it, right? When a big Pokemon game comes out, people are asking why are there lines outside of GameStop, or why are there lines outside of Best Buy, or a system like the Switch comes out and it's mayhem online. Releases keep games in mainstream, but E3 happens every year. You can set your clock to it pretty much, right? And when it happens, people are really excited. The problem we're running into right now is that the ESA is struggling internally, and that's not good for E3. Now, the report goes on to show that the ESA has actually had offers for people who would come in and take E3 off of their hands, because there are some ethical issues, it seems, for the ESA, who's in charge of regulating the ESRB, for example, regulating loot boxes in games, all that stuff. They were created specifically for that. In fact, several companies that you know of right now are members of the ESA. Now, they don't really do much outside of really kind of communicate to them, and they even say at this point it works for them to get discounts and ins at E3. That's basically what they see it as. But I mean, think of like Nintendo, Sony, Microsoft, EA, ZeniMax. Think about all of these companies that you know of that you play their games. They're part of the ESA, and it's one big really community where they kind of come together over these issues. And something like a loot box, we would expect to regulate it, but it has not. Instead, of course, they run E3, and E3 makes up half of their revenue, allegedly. It makes up 48% or nearly $35 million. E3 is not cheap, and Sony is kind of opting out, and they're going to end up saving a lot of money. In fact, the amount of money they're probably going to save from E3, they'd probably be able to put on an awesome PlayStation experience towards the end of the year. And it makes you wonder, should these companies really pay out that much for E3 when they can hold their own conference that could be that much better because they're not paying a premium to be in LA with E3. Now, according to them, they're also kind of in it in LA till at least 2023. So even thoughts of moving E3 to something like, there were talks like Las Vegas, for example, that's not going to happen for a little while now. Now, the company that actually offered to buy E3 from them, take it off their hands, is actually ReedPop, and they run the different PAX shows, for example, Star Wars Celebration, New York Comic Cons. They have quite a bit of experience in running these things, and having the ESA tied to a convention that then takes money from the members and the gaming community and tries to shape it, it's not great, it seems, and it has hurt E3. So I do think as long as the ESA is struggling the way they are with internal politics, slight corruption, it seems, then I think we're gonna have an issue with E3, and I do fear for E3's future as someone who enjoys it every year, because there's a chance that in a couple years we might not even have one. Next up, let's talk about Tetris 99. Now, Tetris 99, of course, was a free-to-play game. Technically, you need a membership, so I guess it's tied to the membership, so it's not technically free to play. But if you already have Nintendo membership, it just kind of showed up, you download it, and you went, oh, cool, Tetris. And then you realize very quickly it was a battle royale. Well, Nintendo actually introduced DLC for this. It's paid DLC. Yes and no. Okay, so it is paid DLC, right? It is, but it's also a way for someone who does not have the online service to just outright buy the game and play it offline. So this is actually a tweet that was put out here. It's the Tetris 99 Big Block DLC is available on Nintendo eShop for $9.99 and adds offline modes, Battle 98 bots and CPU battle, and survive in marathon mode to clear the most lines possible. Stay tuned for more on additional upcoming game modes. Now, this is weird because people pointed out right away that, hey, wait a minute, I pay the subscription fee. Why am I buying DLC? This should just be added to it, and I do agree. If you have a subscription, this should be something added, and what this should do is give the option for buying into the service, right? So you don't have to you don't have to buy the Nintendo Online service, you buy into the Tetris 99 DLC that lets you then play Tetris 99, basically sell Tetris 99 to people who don't have the subscription service. But as people have pointed out, we're gonna have to buy this even though we have the subscription. So we have a mode that we can just play, which is the Battle Royale mode, but if you wanna play offline, you then have to buy this DLC. It's definitely a weird situation. I think it should just be a free update and then sold to people who don't have the online subscription, who maybe just want to play Tetris. And our last bit of news, check this out. This is actually Metal Gear Solid redone in Dreams, at least the first part, and I really like what I'm seeing here. Now, you're seeing the video here. This is actually from Barely Regal, and you can double check all of this in the sources below and go check this video out for yourself on YouTube, because this is amazing. Like, they're redoing Metal Gear Solid, but they're not doing it in a weird way. They're still trying to keep the PlayStation 1 aesthetic, technically, but they're kind of making it HD, so it looks a bit better on your TV. It's done in Dreams. They've been coming into some issues now, so some of the issues they're running into have to do with containers that are technically on the field or on the floor, and they're running out of room in Dreams, essentially. And keep in mind, Dreams is an early access, and stuff like Metal Gear Solid HD, it's already being done. Now it's an alpha, and honestly, the character looks a bit weird when it tries to crouch down and everything. Again, animations and other things aren't done or anything like that yet, but for what they've been able to accomplish with Dreams and early access is great, because, well, their Media Molecule is going to take a look at these things and say, oh, well, this is what we should add. That's the whole point of early access, is people to stress the service, the game in this case, and, well, show what we need so we can make Metal Gear Solid HD. Love the creativity here. Awesome stuff. And honestly, if they get this completely done, which seems like it's going to take a long time, to be honest, right? There's a lot to Metal Gear Solid. I would like to play it. I have Dreams, I have it in early access, and I'm excited to see where we are with Dreams in 5 years, provided it sticks around, because I think there's going to be some amazing stuff to download on there, and it might just be worth, like, buying Dreams for, like, what, $30, $40 something, to then just play games, not even make them. And we're gonna finish up today with our comment from Friday. This is actually from Keith saying, as soon as you mentioned customization in Crash Team Racing, my first thought was they're gonna add microtransactions. And this is amazing to me because the one thing Activision has that really hurts them are things like Call of Duty, so much so, like the amount of extra monetization that's done in Call of Duty is astronomical, so much so that we forget the Crash Insane trilogy was already not a full price game and they gave us DLC for it, right? We see Spyro come out, and yeah, it had its problems in the beginning, but again, it wasn't a full price game and they didn't really mess around with Sekiro at all, really. Sekiro just kind of came out. So Activision's actually been on a bit of a roll right now when it comes to games that aren't heavily monetized with loot boxes and other extra really bad microtransactions, but it doesn't matter because we remember all of these really annoying, frustrating things that they've done, right? I mean, we saw what happened with Diablo. That's a whole mess. Hopefully they fix that at BlizzCon, but now people are talking about cell phones and privacy there, so they just can't get out of their own way. But I'm hopeful, because they have not messed with Crash Insane Trilogy, because they didn't really mess with Spyro, and they didn't mess with Sekiro, that something like Crash Team Racing will come out, and they'll have some cool stuff to it. There'll be fun customizations and collectibles, and there won't be a microtransaction in it. But it's still Activision, and as you can see, I'm still not sure. Ladies and gentlemen, that's gonna do it here for Newswave. If you enjoyed this video, guys, hit the like button, it really helps out. If not, hit the dislike. Leave comments down below about everything we talked about, whether it is DeNA taking on now a Pokemon game that I guess most people are expecting to be a gacha style game. Let me know how you think that would do. I think it would make an obscene amount of cash, and I think that's what they're going for. Also, let me know what you think about E3 and I guess its viability going forward. I mean, Nintendo can do directs whenever they want, right? They can invite large groups of people to their own convention thing that they run, a big Nintendo thing. PlayStation's doing the PlayStation Experience, and does Microsoft really need E3? Oh, they might. They might be the ones that actually need it. But let me know what you guys think about that down below, and if E3 will be around 5 years from now, right? Let me know what you think about that. Thanks guys for watching, and I'll see you next time.